everyone. Welcome to healingals.org Sunday community meetings. Thank you all for being here. What we're doing here is giving you the experience of others who have not only stopped the progression of ALS, but have reversed their symptoms also. We are not personally medical professionals. We present with medical professionals. We're not here trying to give you medical advice. What we're doing is just giving you educational information and experience of others. And I think that is important because the more we know, the more we can work together at stopping the progression of this disease. I'm going to keep this very short. Rita Ferraro has an incredible presentation today. This is going to be her part 2. And it's very good that you take notes if you can, because it boils down to something. Those that have actually stopped the progression, a lot of them, we have personally visited lots of folks. And I'm not even going to pick out a number, but we're talking months at a time on the road at sometimes. And basically, what they've said was, it was what they least expected that turned them around and they started gaining in functionality. And to me, if it's something they had least expected, well, this is a multifactorial disease, and it could be something that you would least expect that might turn the progression of this disease around. So without taking up much time, it's a long program today. Tish, can we please introduce Rita?
A couple of housekeeping things before I introduce Dr. Rita Ferraro. I'm very excited about today's presentation because we don't realize how important everything is. Just to remind everyone, I think Scott mentioned we are not medical professionals, we're just educators. So I want to thank our donors and our volunteers because obviously, like Dr. Ferraro today, just volunteered a whole lot of time just getting this presentation to you. So without donors and volunteers, there is no way we could do any of this. So I just want to thank everyone. It makes a huge difference. This is probably the most important housekeeping task. If any of you missed the introduction was on Thursdays. So generally, this course is Thursdays. It's at 8 a.m. Eastern and at 7 p.m. Eastern. We are hoping that everyone around the world can get to this. If you missed Thursday, today during the breakout, I'm going to re-give the introduction. It is also on recording, and module 1 is now available. We're going to be releasing 1 module a week. We released module 1 last Thursday. We will do Q&A on that module, and then we will release the next module the next Thursday, this coming Thursday. So if you are not participating in the 47 steps to healing, I'm going to ask you all a very serious question. How interested are you in healing ALS? How dedicated are you to healing ALS? So there are 2 things that are absolutely required. 1 is coming on Sundays, and number 2 is doing this 47 steps to healing, because you want to make sure that you are not missing any of the pieces. And we do understand Sunday is family day, it's church day, there's a lot going on Sundays and you can't always make it, but at least listen to the recordings. The same thing with the steps. This is a self-paced, self-study course. There's homework, a couple of hours of homework every week. Sometimes it's like 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. This one, I believe, is under 2 hours. You can get everything done in the first module. So if you're not behind, we only started 3 days ago. So please make up your mind to do this course. It is a year-long course. By the end of the year, you will be so much better off than you are now. As anyone who was at the conference, it was 3 days of jam-packed information in one conference, and people still learned a lot. Imagine getting that information spread out over a year. It's life-changing, life-saving information. Please don't miss this opportunity. It is free. Of course, we accept donations. We appreciate donations. We couldn't possibly do any of this work without donations, but we want to make it free because we understand there are people on disability that simply, we want you to spend your money on supplements versus on this. So if it's between eating and good food and supplements, we don't want that to be a challenge. We want every single person to be able to participate. Okay, if you are not on your emailing list, please check your spam and promotions. If you have any questions of any kind, please email healingals@gmail.com. If something isn't working, healingals@gmail.com. Alicia answers that email. She is wonderful and just right on top of things. So please do not hesitate to write us if you're having any issues. The new healingals.org site may be coming this week, may be coming next week. It's very soon. So thank you for your patience. It will be much easier to read on a phone right now. I know it's horrible on the phones. Okay, so Dr. Rita Ferraro, I don't want to say a whole lot. We introduced her last week. I don't know anyone who knows as much of the details about detoxifying from a disease as Dr. Ferraro does. I mean, she was 69 pounds and 5'4". All the conventional doctors gave up on her. All of the functional doctors gave up on her. And basically, she wasn't supposed to survive. And she managed to fight her way back. A lot of you were in the same position that she was in. She had multiple chemical sensitivities. She had major environmental toxins in her body, and she was able to fight her way back and get rid of those toxins and heal her body. And today, she's a healthy woman with an amazing future. She went back to school to get her naturopathic doctoral license or degree or whatever she did, schooling, so that she could help other people heal. And she is here volunteering her time to help us heal. All of you, and everyone to stay healthy. So Dr. Ferraro, welcome. I'm so pleased to have you again this week.
So anyway, thanks for that great introduction. So this is what I had put in the last book that I wrote. I just really loved the poet Rumi. So you were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You are not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. And so that's what everybody here has to do. And that's what Tish was talking about when she said, I pulled myself up from 69 pounds and went through the whole process of detoxification and many things that, will be in your 47 steps to healing. And you can go to the next slide. Okay, so we're talking about any enemas before doing any detox protocol.
Right. And just to remind everybody, last week, she talked about all the principles of detoxification. So if you missed last week's, it is on the Sunday recording. So you want to look at those principles. And now she's going to look at some practical things. And doctors never do this. So this is huge that Dr. Rita is explaining this to us.
Yes, and the reason we're talking about enemas first is because as I began to work with anybody that was motor neuron challenged, the rate of constipation was amazing to me. So I had people maybe pooping once every 2 weeks or 2 times every 2 weeks. So these enema protocols are going to be a little different because they're going to be geared toward the motor neuron challenged person, even in a wheelchair, or if you're mobile. So anybody could do them. So there really is no excuses. Ways were figured out. They were told to me. So before any detox protocol, you must be moving your bowels and you must be doing an enema, even if you're moving your bowels 3 times a day. So we'll go to the other slide.
Right. She explained even healthy people should be doing enemas. So that's really interesting.
Just as a maintenance. Okay. So one of the things that happened to me is I started enemas at 65 pounds, thanks to Dr. Sherry Rogers. And it was so hard to tell any doctors, even in the functional medicine field, that even though I wasn't their patient, I knew some of them. And it was really hard to tell them because they kept telling me, oh, you're just going to weaken yourself. You're going to burn out your adrenals. You're going to do all these things to yourself. But the coffee enema and saunas is why I healed. Because you'll see later on, we talk about the biochemistry of what a coffee enema does. And next week, we're going to talk about what the sauna does on a biochemical level. So, you know, they really did at some point make fun of me. And some people used to say it must be a trip to, they would say to my husband, it must be a trip to have Rita as your wife. So, but I didn't care. I didn't care what they said. So I know that I wouldn't be alive without coffee enemas. And we're going to go into the mechanism later on. I still do enemas periodically, especially when I travel and come home. And if I feel anything coming on, anything like a little cough or a head cold, right away sauna coffee enema. So those are the things I go to. I clean out my mucoid plaque, which we're going to talk about later. You'll understand it once a year. I do saunas periodically as needed. So go to the next slide. Okay. So why are you doing enemas if you're pooping even 3 times a day? The reason being is that you have an illness. You're toxic. Okay. So you've been diagnosed with ALS, you are toxic. Just a couple of studies, the NIH peer-reviewed ALS research, JAMA, the New England Journal of Medicine, all show that it plays a major role in environmental toxins. And if you want to do Dr. Google, you will get so many articles that you won't even believe it. There's many more references. The newest one was that heavy metals, pesticides, especially glyphosate, which I'm finding in people. If you're not eating organic, then you really need to eat as much as organic as you can. They were detected in the tissues of ALS patients. So this is like post-mortem. They accelerate the detox, and we talked about this last week. The fat-soluble toxins, we want to become water-soluble toxins when they come out. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so if you're constipated the way I just spoke to you about it, you haven't had a bowel movement in 2 weeks or maybe 1 week even, I start out with a baking soda enema. And Tish, I want to just share this. I got a text right before this enema. And so one of my patients said, wanted you to know I did first baking soda enema last night. This is a person who's been constipated for 13 years. Went to bathroom multiple times and again this morning. Went to church, had breakfast, a very large bowel movement. This is just a baking soda enema. This is somebody who actually now just went on her own. This is more than I even expected. So do you see how important it is? So we start with the baking soda. If somebody's impacted, more than a week, semi-impacted. If you were really, really impacted, you would be in the ER because your colon's bursting, right? So sometimes it comes out as flakes. I just didn't want anybody to be surprised. And sometimes it came out like this woman. It's a very gentle enema. And I say do it for 3 days before starting any other enema until you feel cleaned out. Well, look what happened to her. She did it in 1 night. Now everybody's going to be different until, but she's been constipated for 13 years. And she'll say like, it's 6-7 days. The last time I spoke to her and I didn't go to the bathroom. And I said, oh, well, she's a new patient. And I said, well, we'll have none of that. Let me show you how you're going to go to the bathroom. Okay, go to the next slide because I think we're going to introduce.
And I just want to understand, if your bowels are not moving, just to get to be really simple for those of you who are relatively new to this, if your bowels, all of the things that you were excreting out of your bowels are full of toxins by definition. They're supposed to be out of your body. The longer they stay in your colon, those toxins get reabsorbed into the bloodstream and get moved around. So it's really important that they do not stay long enough to get reabsorbed, that they get out of your body.
Well, they'll go from one organ to the other. And the worst thing that we want is that it's going to go through the blood-brain barrier and go in your brain. That's the
and
word.
that's,
That's
and
the worst.
again, with ALS, you know that your blood-brain barrier is compromised.
Compromised.
So
Yep.
you,
So is mine.
do not, this is why this is so important for ALS patients. It is just critical.
Hmm. So basically in here, what I do is it's like a cookbook. The best enema kit that I have, and I'm very well versed in enema kits, got rid of the bucket years ago. It's stainless steel. We now know that stainless steel chips off into metals, other metals. So I use the Mica Care that's found on Amazon. And you can just see what the directions are. I don't think I have to tell people the directions, but it's important to get. Do not use baking soda that is Arm & Hammer. It is toxic. Okay, so you're not going into a regular store, you're going into a health food store, or if you can't find it, buy it online. And I put sea salt or Himalayan, and really I should have put Celtic sea salt, or a salt that you know is safe, not one that comes from the San Francisco Bay Area. And I think I talked about that on the detoxification last week. You took my slides off.
I know, I'm just changing it to Celtic sea salt because
Oh, okay, yeah.
that way,
Celtic, yeah. This way you're not using any sea salt. You're not just going in and buying any sea salt.
right, exactly. I think that's really important. So the only reason I wanted to fix that slide.
I like to use the two of them because I know that they're tested. And I actually know the person who owns Celtic sea salt, and Himalayan's great. So, you know, the recipe is easy. 1 to 2 tablespoons of baking soda, 2 quarts of warm water, 2 teaspoons of salt, and it should say warm, safe water, Tish. You know, so I don't know if you want to put that back in there because we don't want it out of your tap. Mix well before use. You're going to warm the water in a non-toxic pan. I don't like to see stainless steel. I know a lot of people are still using it, but I don't like to see it. I like to see ceramic. Add to the sea salt, baking soda mixture. Okay, this is the most important thing. People put it in and release it. You hold it 5 to 10 minutes. The more you hold it, more is going to come out. So even if you can't get the whole mixture in, the whole 2, it's better you stop and hold it. Release it into the toilet. We're going to show you how we modified any enema, any kind of enema for somebody who is not mobile. So you'll see that later on. Do this once per day, 20 minutes after you eat. Now, let me tell you, almost all my enemas are 20 minutes after you eat, especially for a constipated person. The reason why she did so well, if she got up in the morning, and I know people say they evacuate in the morning. Well, somebody who's constipated or you really want those toxins out, 20 minutes is the average time a person eats and has a bowel movement. So the optimal is 3 bowel movements a day. We're, as Americans, not trained to do that. As little kids, we're even trained to, you know, you're in school, you don't go to the bathroom right away. We're trained to have 1 bowel movement. We really are. You know, hold it in when you're a little kid. That's like the worst thing. So what happens is you actually get more out. And you're trying to restore your normal rhythm and motility. So I'm trying to train your colon from getting the innervation and motility to come back. And there's actually an exercise too that you could do that, but I do it with the enemas because you're going to be doing the enemas anyway. So you'll increase to twice a day until constipation ends. And why I say that is that because you're going to go on to another enema. So I don't want you to be doing baking soda enemas forever. You may need only 1 or 2 days of them. This woman is going to go on to the next enema. So go to the next slide. So if say you're constipated one day and you think to yourself, well, you know, I'm not going to be doing a coffee enema this day, although I really think everybody who has ALS or any, like even the illness I had, I did 1 to 2 coffee enemas a day. So say you just didn't fleet enema, you should always have them because maybe that'll just make you go to the bathroom. You know, it's really there. It just needs to come out and be lubricated. So that's the only reason why I mentioned the fleet enema. Maybe you go to the bathroom 3 times a day, and you just seem like, it's like maybe 2 o'clock and you haven't had a bowel movement. Try the fleet enema. So it's over the counter. Keep them in your house. So that's all you have to do. The next day you have your normal bowel movements. It's fine.
Dr. Rita says, just keep some fleet
Keep
enemas in
them
your house all
in
the
your
time.
house all the time. So a lot of people are doing, I heard, soapy water enemas. It's not recommended because it's not necessary. And the reason that I was given is that it lubricates. Soapy enemas are from your grandmother's time. Okay, that's what they did. So I don't recommend them because they're not necessary. And the other types of enemas are more effective. So I heard that people are doing soapy enemas before they're doing one part of a coffee enema. I don't even see the reason. There's no reasoning for me why that's going to happen. Because you could do the soapy water enema. They're letting it out right away. They're not holding it. And then they're doing the coffee enema, holding it. And my problem is you may have some left in you, toxins that you're not getting out. You're not doing, to me, it almost makes sense to do the reverse, the coffee enema and then the water enema. But it doesn't have to be soapy. I don't know. The soap came from our grandmothers. They used to do that, like in the olden times. So we don't do it. We just don't recommend it here. But I don't want to insult anybody who's doing them. Okay, so coffee enemas activate. This is part of the biochemistry we talked about. There's a hepatic portal vein to the liver to excreting toxic bile to the small intestine. And that's the whole thing that coffee does. In fact, Tish said to me, and we'll get to that, why can't I just, take my coffee pot? Why can't I just say, why am I cooking the coffee? Because it has many oils and special compounds in it that help innovate that portal vein. Okay, so if you're really doing it right, I am going to tell you, you will smell your pesticides. If you're sauna, you'll taste them. You're going to smell petroleum in the bathroom. I find that whether it's jet fuel, rocket fuel, car exhaust, it all smells the same. It comes out as petroleum. And to me, you know what it smells like? It smells like car exhaust, or when you are gassing up your car. The whole bathroom smells like that. Now, not in the sauna. I just want to make it clear that usually does not happen in a sauna. Okay, so a water enema, a fleet enema will help move the bowel, but it's not pulling the toxins out. So you see what I'm saying? On that day that you do in the fleet enema, or a regular water enema, which is why I don't like them, is you're not pulling out any more toxins, just the toxins that are normally coming out. You can go to the next one. I think it's really important that you have this enema equipment and you have it and you have it set up. And we're going to talk about whoever raised what kind of coffee. We will talk about that. It's on the next slide. So I like a ceramic pot for cooking the coffee. A mold-free coffee must be used. Must be used. Now, the 2 brands I know you could look up more are Bulletproof by Dave Asprey. Just remember, it doesn't say organic because he's not certified, but it is organic, or Life Boost coffee. I like the Bulletproof because I like to buy the big 5-pounders at a time. I like that in my house all the time. And I'm not a big coffee drinker, but if I'm going to drink coffee, I don't want to drink mold in it. They sell to the United States the most mold coffee, filled coffee, that Europe will reject. So we have the worst coffee here in America. You'll need a Pyrex measuring cup. I would get a 4-cup one. I didn't put that in there. You do have to use a stainless steel sieve for straining the coffee, the thinnest weave as possible, because you don't want the grinds going in. I tried cheesecloth once, but I got to tell you something. It is a pain, and I burned myself once, so I don't recommend it. The Mica Cast Silicone Enema Kit is the best one on the market. It just has everything. It's on Amazon. It's about $25. Some people already are using a silicone-based one. That's fine, with different attachments. But for this sake, the Mica Care is the simplest in setting up. So a lot of people are still using those old-fashioned rubber enema kits that they also double as a hot water bottle. That's not okay. No paper filter, guys. That was in the chat. Why? Because you're going to capture the oils. That's why it's not going through paper. So that's the reason you're going through a sieve, because we want to bypass any paper. Okay, so I will tell you, say you're in a hotel, okay, and this is what Dr. Sherry Rogers told me, and for some reason you have to do an enema, you feel sick, or you just want to do an enema, right? You're going to use the coffee pot because it's better than nothing, but it is not the same as boiling it and letting it come to a roll boil, which we'll talk about in the next slide. Okay, lubrication. There is a thing called unpetroleum jelly. Buy it online. You need a safe lubricant, not Vaseline. If you want Vaseline, just go into your car, go around the muffler, and then go into your gas tank and put that on your asshole. And that's what you're doing with Vaseline, because that's where they make Vaseline. That's how they make Vaseline. It's a byproduct of petroleum. So it just drives me crazy because they used to use it on babies' genitals. I mean, years ago, it's nuts. Anyway, they sell unpetroleum jelly. Do not use preparation H if you feel like you bled a little bit. Sometimes the toxins are so caustic. Coconut oil is wonderful, any oil that you have. So any good oil that you have, try not to use canola oil, you know, the processed. You could use olive oil, you know, the virgin cold pressed olive oil, anything like that. I started off using oils, but I like unpetroleum jelly. I use a calendula cream by Bodyceuticals. I love that. So you're going to drink 1 tablespoon of magnesium chloride as the coffee enema is being prepared. So we go to the next slide and we're going to tell you how it's going to be prepared. Okay. So you're going to drink the 1 tablespoon of magnesium chloride. A lot of you have REMAG, but allergy research also has it. So whatever liquid magnesium chloride, you're going to drink a tablespoon as the coffee enema is being prepared. Buy whole bean. Do not buy it ground. The more it's ground, the more mold it has in it. Grinds on coarse setting of your coffee grinder. Okay, so distilled or undiluted magnesium chloride, it makes no difference to me as long as it's magnesium chloride. Okay, so usually it's 2 cups of purified water, but I like to give a little extra, so a quarter more or a half more of a cup, because some of it is going to evaporate, and some of it, when you have it in the tubing, there's going to be a little air, and so you're going to take the air out before you inject it or before you insert it into your rectum. So again, safe water in a ceramic. I put a glass pot, believe it or not, I have glass pots. Don't use a stainless steel pot. Okay, let it come to a boil. You're going to add 4 level teaspoons of bulletproof coffee or Life Boost coffee. If you feel like you're very oh my goodness, I'm very sensitive and I'm sensitive to supplements, then start with 2 level tablespoons. We didn't put that in there, but I'm just thinking about it now, that if a person, the average motor neuron challenged person could definitely handle the 4 tablespoons. I do that all the time. And but if a person is really allergic to food, allergic to their supplements, then start out with the 2 levels. Simmer to a rolling boil for 20 minutes. That's how you're getting all the good stuff out of it. That's why we don't want it through a coffee maker. By the way, most coffee makers, if you don't keep up on them, they're moldy. That's the other thing about coffee makers. I don't know how long people have them in the house. If they change the filter, even if you do, you can't even believe what I've seen in coffee machines. Okay, so you never want it flat. If you don't see that rolling boil, that's not okay. It's not taking the good stuff out of the coffee. Go to the next slide. Okay, so the recipe continued is then what you're going to do is that 2.5 cups, and you're going to take the sieve. I told you that already. Pour it into a Pyrex measuring cup. Filter the coffee grinds. I should have said that first, through a very small hole strainer. Add 2 cups. This is a shortcut, right? Instead of 4 cups of coffee at once, it's going to be piping hot. So this is the shortcut. You do 2 cups of piping hot coffee, and then you take cold, safe water to get the correct temperature. We want it like a baby's bottle. Okay, so tepid. We never want it too hot. It'll come out immediately. If you make a cold coffee enema, it's just a waste of time. Don't even put it in. Please reheat it because it'll come right out of you. You cannot hold it. You want to always make sure, get into the habit of clamping the enema bag immediately. Okay, that bag, always look at it. See if it's clamped when it's not in use. Okay, pour the coffee into the enema bag before hanging the bag. Get the extra air out of the tubing. Like I told you, it's going to have a little air. And so take a little coffee out. Okay. Some people could do it in the bowl. Some people could do it in the shower because it may be a modified. They're not going to be laying down. They're going to be in a wheelchair. There's a hanger that comes. It's steel. I say plastic. It is a steel hanger. Some come with plastic. With the enema kit, hang it on a doorknob or a towel rack. Do not put it on the shower rack or right on your shower. And this is a low enema. This is not a colonic. So it's about, I like tested, it's approximately 36 to 40 feet from the floor. This is a low enema. Why? We do not want to disturb the microbiome. So when you're getting a colonic, the colonic therapist is going way up, and it takes 2 to 4 weeks to repopulate your microbiome. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the recipe continued. The idea of when you're mobile, so this is for mobile people, the idea of being on a towel, to me, if something's going to leak out, I don't wash towels, and if anything that's fecal matter, I throw every clothing out. So I'm just very careful with that. So Costco sells these dog wee-wee pads, and they're like nothing. If you try to find like human pads, they're really expensive when you go to the store. Go to Costco, put it on the floor, you're going to get like 100 of them. Some people do it in a bathtub. I'm just telling you that because they like it, but I don't like the bathtub. Okay. So say you're lying down or you're going to be, and we'll show you a person who's going to be sitting up in a bedside chair that we make into a enema. Okay, we make it into an enema chair. So just bear with me.
42 inches is going to change if you're sitting on the
chair.
chair.
And you know what usually it is. So that's why I gave the measurement. And I know this sounds really funny, but so many caretakers, they show me pictures of them holding it for the person. I laughed my hiney off over that, but they get so into it, the caretaker with them, that they're holding it up to the thing. But you don't have to do that. But that's why I did give you the measurements, because it will change and you will get to see a picture of it. So just bear with me now that we're on our side or whatever. You're going to lubricate the tip with the very safe oils and whatever you use. You're going to insert it no more than 2 to 6 inches, and really 6 inches is still a lot, into the rectum while lying down on your back or your side. This is for people who are mobile. Open the clamp, let a little coffee solution enter, close the clamp. This is important. Everybody lets it flow in. Just do a little. Just promise me you'll do a little, even though you say, oh, but I could do more. Close the clamp. Stop that motility from happening. Do it, keep doing it. Open, close the clamp. Sometimes what I will do is I will actually take it out of my rectum again. If I feel like that thing is going to come out, oh no, I'm not doing another coffee enema. You're not coming out, right? And I'll put it back in, and then I can hold it longer. Do this as much as you need. I hold the tubing so it doesn't slip from the rectum. It will slip. So it's what I said. It's not about volume, okay? So you have 2 cups, right? If you have 1.5 cups and you can't get any more in you, and you think, oh, but Rita and the ALS organization said it's 2 cups. Well, it's more important to hold it for 12 to 15 minutes. In the beginning, I think I held it for like 10 to 12 minutes, but 15 is optimal. If you can't go for the 15, that's totally fine. Anything over 10, you've done it. You're at the finish line. Okay. And then you go on the bowl, you completely empty yourself. You can go to the next slide. You could massage your stomach when the coffee is in. You could massage your stomach before the coffee goes in. You could massage your stomach when you're on the bowl, going to pass the coffee enema. So now, when you start enemas, it's a 2-part enema, because you're not going to start with the 4-cup Gerson enema. You will never be able to do it. So we want you to have successful enemas, right? So just repeat the steps from 11 to 18. That is called a complete coffee enema. Okay, now you have done 4 cups of coffee divided into 2. You cannot do the Gerson method. When you master the coffee enema, then you could do the Gerson method. I want to tell you that everybody should start out. I got a really good question already. Do not get light roast, because light roast are for the pros. So light roast is for somebody like me who's knows how to do enemas for 16 years. Okay, a light roast for a person who's starting out is too strong. You want medium, not medium dark, not espresso, not Cafe Altura has less coffee. You don't want to buy that. There's one brand, Cafe Altura. Do not want it. Don't get light, don't get medium dark, and don't get dark, and don't get espresso. They will not work. So start with a medium. And, I say to people, in a year, go to light. Hey, look, if I don't have light in my house, I'm doing medium. I'm doing whatever I have, but I'm certainly not doing medium dark. Okay? So you go to the next slide. This is a patient of mine who took a bedside chair, and they come on Amazon. They don't have to look like this. They could look like anything. Okay, so if you are in a wheelchair, there's no excuse for not doing an enema. So I have several people that I'm treating who are in wheelchairs. They are all doing enemas. So I wanted you to see that this one guy was clever enough that I see that he put it in his shower. And I thought that was great, because some other people weren't putting it in their showers. Well, if you could fit it in your shower, isn't that pretty great? Kind of makes it more sanitary. So we can go to the next and really take a look at that. And there are people who are doing it. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is, after you're doing the enemas, Bernard Jensen was the father of, and I'm sorry you have to look at this crap, but he was I call him the grandfather of colon cleansing. But this is really not a 7-day colon cleanse. This is just getting rid of the mucoid plaque. Some people say you need 7 days. I don't believe it, okay? Because if you're drinking very little liquids on that day, and you're not eating solidly for 24 hours, and you started this Bernard Jensen's technique, and you don't buy those. I mean, I know I can tell you that there's somebody in Vegas selling a colon cleanse for $250. I don't understand why. So they call it Sunny's number 7, Sunny's number 9. One is bentonite and one is psyllium husk. I don't care what brand you get, as long as it's organic. And go to the next.
So Rita,
Okay.
you're not supposed to eat on 24 hours? It doesn't say that.
Yeah, it does say drink very little liquids would be
but
best.
I thought you would do it. Didn't say you're not allowed to eat.
Oh, well, I just thought that that was obvious.
Okay, well, no.
You
let me fix that.
put that in when
I'm putting that in right now, because
put
I
it
had
in.
do
Yeah,
not
put
eat
that-
and drink very few liquids. Okay, do not eat and drink very few liquids. This is very important.
You know
Okay.
what? Could you put do not eat and drink liquids?
Oh, only
And
liquids.
drink, yeah, that's really what I meant. So
Only drink,
yeah.
and not too many liquids.
No, it's okay if they drink. I don't want them drinking juices. So water.
Okay,
and
water, but
they
the
could
amount
do-
is okay.
Yeah, any amount of water is okay.
Oh, okay. So
Any
just
amount. So take out
water.
few. Yeah.
Water, no juice. Any other liquids were allowed?
If they want electrolytes, I say some people feel like they like to drink electrolytes during the day. That's fine.
Liquids, okay. Electrolytes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I really don't like when people drink juices.
So it's not, okay. Okay,
Okay, so go to the next slide because we
Okay.
went over everything.
sorry, thank you. I'm
That's
gonna
okay.
save this, because if I don't save it, I'm gonna lose it, so hold on.
Okay.
Save anyway, just a second. Okay. Slideshow. Okay,
Okay, so let me go back. I'm sorry, I missed the pictures. Okay, so the top picture is a mucoid plaque that lacks bile. That you see the difference between the two? That lacks bile. It's yellow in color. It's not dark. Now, what you would give that patient is some ox bile to help them produce more bile. I would give some other supplements as well. The one on the bottom is more like what's going to come out. And you could see it's mucus, but I can't show you. You're not going to see my finger, but you see like the lumpy parts. Some of those went into your colon and they made a mold and they took it out. That's how people get diverticulosis, diverticulitis. So it may not be smooth. Some may look like a meatball. So it went into a part of your colon and it cleansed that part. Okay, we could stop being gross now. So go to the next one. You can go to, okay. So in a bottle with a screw top, this is about how are we making this solution. You mix 1 tablespoon of bentonite with 1 tablespoon of psyllium husk in 8 ounces of clean filtered water. I say it again, if you can't find the Sunny's products, there's certain kind of, I get a little distracted because people are doing questions and so they pop up on me. You got to drink it fast or it starts, it doesn't matter with the mucoid plaque whether you went to the bathroom or not. It's better if you do go to the bathroom, but if you didn't and you're ready to do the mucoid plaque, that's fine.
we'll get questions at the end, so.
Yeah, because
Worry about it, yeah.
it's confusing me a little bit because it pops up right in the middle of my screen.
Oh, yeah, you can move it over so you don't see it. And you
Okay.
can also minimize it so you don't see it.
Okay, that's what I'll do. Okay. So you have to drink it all and you have to drink it very fast because you don't want it to grow. So the psyllium tends to grow. You mix it and mix it and mix it, and there you go. Drink it fast.
Okay.
Since I was not able to eat many foods, you have to remember, I was like a hungry, fasting child, from a third world country. I didn't eat. I had hunger pangs. I know what it's like to starve, like to almost starve to death. So I shed black sausage-like casings in the shape of the intestines because I was so clean. Didn't have any stool in me. It was ridiculous. I took photos of it because I couldn't believe it. This is called the mucoid layer or plaque. I couldn't find mine, so I couldn't put it up. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. Okay, so what is a colon hydrotherapy?
Before we go back, I just have a quick question.
Go ahead.
So you're suggesting doing this for ALS patients twice a year, and then once you're healthy, once a year for healthy.
Yeah,
people.
and we say yes, and we say that in another slide.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what is the difference between the low enema and the high enema? And usually go to somebody who is a colonic therapist, right? A colon hydrotherapist. And so the difference is that, yes, it's another form of elimination. You go there, and if you're going to do that, it would have to be at least 3 times a week, right? Because I think it adversely affects the microbiome and everybody for 2 to 4 weeks, most people are going to tell me, but my colon hydrotherapist repopulates me with all these probiotics and everything. And I will tell you, it doesn't make a difference because I have normal patients in my, who are like, just want to maintain themselves. They have a colonic, they ruin their microbiome. And it's like, why don't you just do this and do a coffee enema so we don't have to go through this again and repopulate your microbiome. So the colon therapist, remember, is never going to advertise that they do a colonic with coffee. They will never. They're not really allowed to. So if you say, could you please put coffee in here for me? They will. So why am I saying this? Because this is like, say you're away or say it's not convenient. I don't know what happened. Something happens. Like when I had to use the coffee pot because I was traveling. Okay, so say something happens where you can't do it and you have to go to a colonic therapist. Okay, so you go to the colonic therapist and then, have them repopulate it and you'll repopulate it. We're not going to be so strict as to tell you, you can't do, you only have to do this one way. We tell you the optimal way, but these are other ways that you could do it. So if you could do the low enema at home, then you don't need to do this at all. I will tell you that the father of environmental medicine was too lazy to do coffee enemas, and he did the colon hydrotherapy 3 to 4 times a week. And I used to yell at him. Okay.
Yeah. So, some people do the colon hydrotherapy.
Yes.
But, and I don't want to say it's not effective. Of course, it's way better than nothing.
Than nothing. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes.
Yeah, it's way better than nothing. And again, there's different opinions. And we want to present all opinions. We had a colon therapist at the conference and he presented. But this is a very interesting aspect of it that I didn't know, because I knew that there was a problem with colon hydrotherapy because of the microbiome. But I love the fact that the enemas don't affect the microbiome. It's less expensive. You can do it yourself at home. And with the limited energy that a lot of ALS patients have, it's a huge deal to try to go to a colon hydrotherapist.
Well, exactly.
Boy, if you can do this at home, less expensive, less time, and less energy, and accomplish the same thing. Wow.
Yeah, I must tell you that I have never had a colonic. I think I'm in the field of somebody with multiple chemical sensitivity. I just thought it was ridiculous. I was home, I was sick, what I was going to do? You're going to take me, I'm chemically sensitive, and put me in a colon hydrotherapist office that I don't know if it's safe with chemicals. So there was no way. So the funny thing is I've never done one. Okay, you can go to the next slide. And the expense as well. They're very expensive if you're having them 3 to 4 times a day. So you want to go to the next slide.
I did one. Just to let you know, I did do one.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did one. Well, I'm virginal when it comes to that. People can't believe that Miss Coffee Enema didn't do a colonic. Okay, so rectal insufflation and suppositories. Trish wanted me to mention this, but it has nothing to do with enemas. This is an ozone part. And she just wanted to make a point that rectal insufflation of ozone is not the same of an enema. And she wanted to know that when you do glutathione suppositories, and some people make their own ozone suppositories, but PromoLife now makes them in different oils. That's not the same. It doesn't, what's the biochemistry? It doesn't innervate the hepatic portal vein. You're just getting oxygenated, okay? So Tish wanted you to know the difference, and that is a big difference between suppositories and any insufflation. Especially some people, I just found out yesterday that they're using water rectal insufflation with water. Okay. And I find that I have a whole apparatus, so I could drink ozonated water. Ozone in water, it really, unless it's constantly bubbling, it doesn't stay very long. So if you're doing like an enema, my concern is that the ozone water has turned to just regular water. So that's it. That's why I don't do ozone water. I bag it into a gas. And we're going to talk about that, right? Tish, that's a modality.
Yeah, that's another modality.
That's another modality.
That's
so
part of the 47 steps.
Yeah, and we just didn't want you to get mistaken that a glutathione suppository and a rectal insufflation or suppository can do the same thing as a coffee enema. It doesn't. It's different modality. Okay. Okay. So basically we went through the different type of enemas, The biology and the biochemistry is we're really talking about what I talked about last week. Really look at the phase 1 and phase 2. You know, how something goes in, it's toxic, it's made more toxic, it conjugates with another molecule and it makes it less toxic, and then it eliminates. Okay, where do we have problems? We have problems in phase 1 and phase 2, or we would not be sick. So that coffee enema is doing amazing things for the hepatic vein, and what I told you, how you're, you know, it's innervating the liver, going into the gallbladder ducts, squeezing out the toxic bile into the small intestine, and coming out through the colon. So the importance of the enemas is for good health. And I don't know if anybody knew the Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez and his wife, Mary Beth. They did it every day. They were the epitome of health. And what he's known for is everyone came to him. He was the pancreatic cancer doctor in New York. He did it every day. He's two doctors I could talk about enemas, Sherry Rogers and Nick Gonzalez. So it was like wonderful talking to them because they were on the same page as me. Now, he did it every day, even though he went to work. So I say enemas are essential before beginning detox, because not only are you eliminating, you're teaching your body through phase 1 and phase 2, which enzymes aren't really up yet. As you begin to supplement and do enemas, right, you're really, really beginning to get phase 1 and phase 2 going to a point where you could keep up with the toxins in your body. We talked about how to do enemas, getting rid of the mucoid plaque. Next week is really going to be exciting because it's going to be on how to do a proper sauna, which so many people do not know how to do. And I'm really going to tell you because I stayed 7 months at the Environmental Health Center with Dr. Bill Ray. He's the father. The grandfather is there on Randolph. Okay. The use of low dose naltrexone, which a lot of people don't know about, and how to do a nasal lavage.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're now, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
That is we so appreciate that you came on and volunteered your time, and we're going to go to Q&A. After Q&A, we will do breakout rooms. And as I announced, there is going to be one of the breakout rooms that's going to be the 47 Steps to Healing introduction, in case anybody missed it on Thursday. We did record it. So if you'd prefer the second breakout room, which is going to be more detoxification questions with Dr. Rita Ferraro, and the third breakout room is going to be general CALS discussion. So just to let everybody know that I'm going to stop my share, that there will be 3 breakout rooms at the end. And Dr. Ferraro has volunteered to come on and stay on for more questions after the main question and answer session. So some people just have like super detailed questions. So, okay, fantastic. So Glenn, why don't you start?
Sure. There's actually a question from way back when you were talking about the 47 steps and the course, and they want to know if it would apply to genetic familial ALS.
So absolutely yes. People ask this all the time, and the reality is there are just as many. The percentage of familial ALS to the ALS population, it's about 10%, 10 to 15% familial ALS, and the rest is sporadic. Dr. Bedlack, in all of his reversal studies, says it's the same percentage. So if you've got the C9 gene, the SOD1 gene, you've got a whole bunch of family members with ALS, absolutely, the familial ALS is as reversible as the regular ALS. So he finds the exact same percentage are reversing with familial ALS as regular sporadic ALS. So the 47 steps absolutely does apply.
Jim is asking if you have a sensitivity to silicone detected by the LRA test, is there an alternative to the MicaCare silicone kit?
Because that is a very good question. It's a very good question because the alternatives are plastics And the stainless steel bucket, I mean, I would concede to that, but you still need a tubing. So I don't know. And Dr. Cowden's an expert on getting silicone out of silicone breasts with his 7-day cleanse.
So some people are so sensitive to silicone that if they use any kind of silicone products, whether it's an enema bag or anything else, they have, allergic type reactions. And so you have to find alternative materials to use for those patients. Or alternatively, you can do a laser detox for the silicone and get by with doing an enema with a silicone bag, possibly about every 4th day, but not more often than that.
Okay, so there's a technique called Bioset, and that literally, I mean, I studied that, and that literally gets rid of those allergies. Okay,
Yeah.
so it would get rid of it longer than 4 days. Everything sometimes is a compromise, like Lee. That
Yeah.
rubber thing. I mean, it comes with a hose that is not silicone. So maybe before you could do something about it, isn't it better to do an enema than change the bag? Change the bag every month. They're so cheap, the hot water. The problem is when you're using that hot water bottle, it eventually leaches. But if you buy it every month, so I say, the way Dr. Sherry Rogers, I saw her once and I said, I can't do an enema and I really need one. And she goes, don't you have a coffee machine in your? I said, but you told us not to do it in your book. She goes, oh, come on. To me, like she was like, what's the compromise, Rita? And so she told me it was better to do it in a coffee machine than not to do it. So maybe it's better to do it in a hot water bottle, or do what Lee said. There are LEDs, people who have access to them, and you may get 4 days out of it. If you have somebody near Bioset or Avatar or NAET didn't work for me. Because I was real sensitive. Some people it does. You could get a really good Nembucha patch allergy elimination technique. Bioset came out of that. So do the best you can. Or if you can't do it, get the water bottle. It has its own hose, the hot water bottle. It'll come with everything, right? Because it's not just a hot water bottle, it's an enema kit. And change that every month. We're worried about the leaching. That's the whole thing. So that's what I would do. And what Lee said is a good idea as well.
Yeah. Well, one more thing, I'm likewise not terribly enthralled with using the rubber enema bags, but at least they're not made with silicone. So that's another option.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you change it, we're really worried about leaching. So it's the people who are constantly putting these hot things in things that leach, So that was my idea. Anybody who has an allergy to silicone cannot touch any of those silicone things. No.
A couple of people are asking, I believe, I'm assuming the enemas, would this work on ALS caused by genetic mutation?
Absolutely. That's just what Tish said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It does not make a difference.
Okay. So Connie is asking, saying, so you lie on the floor when you put the enema in and later go to the bowl? Yeah.
So you're going to hold it, Connie, right? So say you can hold it only 10 minutes. You really don't want to go on the wee-wee pad, right? It's there only as a precaution. So say it's 10 minutes, you go on the bowl. Or if you could hold it 15 minutes, you want to hold it without releasing it on your wee-wee pad. Okay, you'll get used to it. You'll feel the sensation, and then you'll go on the toilet bowl, Connie. So how do you know you have to go on the bowl, Connie? Because you're timing yourself, right? Everybody's going to take some sort of timing device in there with them, right? So you're going to time yourself. That's how you know to get off the floor. Okay.
Okay. What brand of ox bile?
use, I go from full script. So like if the one has an ox bile that I like, if Progressive Labs has an ox bile that I like, if Allergy Research has an ox bile I like, and they're not on back ordered, I'll use like those three. Just a really good brand that a doctor would recommend, and I think most of the doctors, I don't know, they're not on here, have a full script account. So basically a full script means that your doctor puts you on there. They can make recommendations, but you could also order your own vitamins. Some doctors give discounts. And so you could be put on there, and maybe, you know what, Tish, maybe what we could do is we could recommend some brands that I've used, and maybe with some other brands, some other doctors feel that, they absolutely feel that's the best one, and give people choices. Okay.
Okay.
And if you can't hold it that long, you're going to have to let it out. What else are you going to do? Don't go on the wee pad. This is going to be your training, right?
Right.
This is training period. If you can't do it, don't be mad at yourself. In
So
the
some of
beginning,
the
there were
pals-
times I couldn't hold it that long. What am I going to do? I have to let it out. Don't worry. Just do the best you can. Always just do the best you can. That's all.
Some of the pals have trouble moving, so the floor isn't really practical. So they should move to that portable wheelchair, because at least then they can get one. They
Absolutely.
can actually do it. They can actually do it and not have to worry about rushing from the floor to the toilet. Because
And
if you have limited mobility, even if you can get to the floor to the toilet, it might take you a minute.
no,
That's
yeah,
important.
yeah. And not only that, could you imagine calling your caretaker? How are you calling your caretaker in time to put you on the bowl? I would not want to be that caretaker, It's like, hurry up. And you know what? Inevitably, you're just going to go. And the poor caretaker, you're just going to go all over the place. So if you are not, I call it mobility, where you are really balanced, is if you are really balanced and you have the mobility to get back up fast on the bowl, those are the people who should be lying down. And I just have to mention both, because some people I know, just with boba, have absolutely no, I have somebody now who has absolutely no muscle atrophy, no other things other than not to be able to swallow and talk. And she does her coffee enemas like a pro. So I have to include everybody, right? Everybody's different. Okay. And use your out breath. Betsy Thompson is more than a respiratory therapist. She's wonderful. She's all over. Use your out breath. Go and look at Betsy Thompson's work on ALS.org. She has many articles that she's written. She's conferred with people. She talked at the ALS conference that we were out, and you could use your breath to hold it in. So read her things. But the breath is so important, and that's a whole other modality, the breath. Breathing for anxiety, breathing for holding an enema in. So thanks a lot, Betsy. Okay, next question.
Next question. Do you do the mucoid plaque removal after your bowels or daily, after enemas, or when?
I would start getting your bowels movement, yeah, and enemas before you start on that. That's like a separate thing.
Okay.
I just wouldn't set out. Dr. Cowden does a 7-day cleanse, and it's very very beautiful, and it's a whole program for people. People are really sick. Some have cancer, some have other things, and he was doing them for years. And they were using a Kalima board, and they were using many other things. So we're not talking about that. Okay, I'm just talking about how did I get a simple mucoid plaque to come out of me, and I did. And you will, because all my patients have gotten it out. So
I'm going to ask you to share your Kalima board story, please.
Oh my God, it was the worst. Oh my God. But let's go
read
on.
Dr. Jensen's book.
Oh gosh.
And Yeah. And
I was
and
so
he has
excited.
pictures and diagrams, because I read
Right.
the book years ago. But
Yeah.
go ahead and tell us what your experience with trying to do
So I
Documentary
love Bernard Jensen. So, I like the oldies. Not everything new is great. Some of the new things that we have in medicine are wonderful, but there are some oldies. I mean, Dr. Cowden finds things, he'll go to Germany and find things that, people have been doing for a long time, and they come here to America. So, okay, so I get Bernard Jensen, I get the whole kit and caboodle, right? I buy this expensive Kalima board, right? So, because he says that if I put the water in and do everything he says, that with the Kalima board, I'm going to get out the mucoid plaque, right? Well, I'm doing every single thing that Bernard Jensen is telling me to do, right? And nothing's coming out. There is no mucoid plaque. And so after that, I was like, frick this. Threw the Kalima board out. I was like so mad, because you have to set up the Kalima board. It's as Dr. Cowden knows, it's a setup, and you leave it there. You're going to be doing it. And no matter what I did, I listened to every single fact that Bernard Jensen did. I talked to people, and my mucoid plaque would not come out. So that's why I'm not recommending get a Kalima board. Dr. Lee Cowden 7-day cleanses. That's a modality in itself. That's a whole thing that Dr. Cowden did that can be a whole presentation in itself. So it doesn't belong here.
No, it's way too complicated for an ALS patient.
Absolutely.
And not necessary. It's excellent for getting microscopic silicone out of the body and for getting asbestos out of the body and probably other things, but not necessary for ALS.
Yeah. So I got the pleasure of seeing a couple of them, and they are quite remarkable. And seeing ozone baths, seeing bubblers in ozone baths was pretty impressive. And silicone going into the water from these people's breasts that had erupted in them. The old days when they used silicone. So Dr. Cowden has had a way to really help people with that. I think he was recently interviewed by Lillian McDermott. So if anybody wants to look that up. Okay, next question.
Okay, next question is still on the mucoid plaque topic.
Yeah.
What can people take with a feeding tube? Because psyllium husk gets thick fast.
Okay, so don't put them together. Okay, so with my patients with feeding tubes, what I do is they're not mixed at the same time. So part of the food that goes in, or part of the liquid that you're putting in the feeding tube, I would put the psyllium in actually the food. Now, I don't know about somebody who's just drinking liquids, or just taking liquid hope, but I know that the people that I'm seeing are taking Leap-X, liquid hope, but they're also eating. They're having the syringe through the feeding tube. So they're having food as well. I haven't put the psyllium in that part. So when it comes together in the stomach, it'll come together. So that was one of the modifications we had to make. Right. So say you have somebody with a feeding tube, or say you even have like somebody who can't swallow that fast, then I actually separate them out. Put the psyllium in a food like thing, and that's a compromise that we just have to make.
You can do the little plunger.
That's what I'm talking about, the plunger. But he has a
I think that you make up only about 60 milliliters, 60 cc's of psyllium and water at one time, and the moment you get it made up, squirt it into the tube.
That's a good idea.
And then wait a little bit, and then make up another 60 cc's and squirt it in the tube, and then wait a little bit and make up another 60 cc's and squirt it in the tube. So eventually you get down 240 cc's, but it's not all at one time. It's 4 different squirts.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. Absolutely. I think actually some of my patients are doing that already. They've already figured it out themselves. Okay, so somebody asked, can I use decaf coffee? What do you think is innervating the portal vein? The caffeine. So no, you cannot use decaf coffee. You cannot even use Cafe Altura because it doesn't have enough coffee in it. So I went through the different types of coffee. Don't start out with a light roast. It's just too strong for somebody who hasn't done an enema before. So what did I say? Get a medium roast. That's the best that you could do. You want to get mold free. Believe me, I've tested people who have had, I found mold in the gallbladder. They were doing coffee enemas. Mold was in the gallbladder with our screening, Dr. Cowden. And so did Michael Payne. Michael Payne would find it all the time. People doing coffee enemas. So we really don't want you to cut corners with that. There's some of the things you could cut corners with. This mold-free coffee, it has to be mold-free.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't do an enema then. Just don't do it.
Yeah. If a person has previously taken coffee orally and had really bad jitters and shakes and stuff like that, then I usually have them do only a quarter of the coffee on the first time. And then the next time a little bit more, and next time a little bit more, and next time a little bit more. So by the third or fourth enema, they're doing full strength. And if they do it that way, then they tend to tolerate it better.
And you know, that's a really good answer, because I think I tried to answer it by saying do two tablespoons of coffee then, but you're absolutely right. The more sensitive you are, this is a rule, right? For the ones who have trouble eating, for the very sensitive person, you want to go slow. So just like what Dr. Lee Cowden said, is you can put less coffee in and boil it, right? And especially if you found you were jittery. I have another idea about why people are jittery. It's disgusting what I'm going to tell you later, but sometimes more needs to come out, and it just hasn't come out. And so you're jittery too from that. But if you are, okay, let me talk about the person who can't smell coffee, right? They're sensitive, Dr. Cowden, they cannot smell the coffee. Somebody else could make them the coffee. They don't have to smell it. You go somewhere else. Do you know that when I was sensitive, I made coffee outside in Santa Fe, outside my house? I did anything. I never stopped. That's why you guys have to know. The reason why I got well is there was never an excuse with me. Oh, I'm going to stop doing coffee enemas because I can't smell coffee. Well, most of my friends are not as well as I am, because you know what? They said I can't smell coffee, so they stopped their coffee enema. Oh, you know, this EMF got me. I was EMF sensitive. Like, I can't even walk in front of a refrigerator. Do you know I never bought a microwave? I mean, even when I lived in New York City, the New York Times said microwaves are not good. I wasn't a naturopath. I was a psychotherapist. I listened. It made sense to me. And so to this day, I have never had a microwave. In a hotel, they have microwaves. My sister put the microwave on, and I thought I was in the ocean. It almost feels like you jump in the waves. So you see, I get, as a canary, to tell you guys, you don't feel anything. It is there. It is there. And it is gonna, I say, scramble your cells. It gets you on a cellular level. Those sleeping with your phones underneath your pillow, I mean, just not. You guys cannot get away with any of those stuff. Your routers on, your modems on at night. I mean, that's a whole different subject. Did we talk about that a little bit, Tish? EMF?
Yeah.
That's going to be a separate model.
Going to be talking about
And
it.
it's going to be,
supposed to be next week. It'll be 2 weeks, because we're going to talk about sauna next week.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Dr.
All right.
Cowden,
So let's
we'll be talking about EMFs in 2 weeks, and I'm
okay, in 2
looking
weeks.
forward to it, because it's so, people don't realize, you don't taste, smell, feel radiation. And yet, if it's in your house, it affects your body. We know that EMFs are the same way. They're affecting your body.
And the thing about me is that I am living proof of someone. It wouldn't happen to me now, right? Because I'm healthy, but I got to see that inanimate objects, a glass table had a frequency. I could touch this teacup, and it had a frequency. I could touch this and I knew the difference between this frequency. We are not made to be that way. How do you live in a world? But I lived in that world. That was my world at one time. So I can tell everybody, I felt it. It's really true.
Eric Edney, who was, diagnosed in 1993, lived 25 years. He died of a stroke and a heart attack at 85. He was diagnosed at 59. So I think it's really important. He did enemas twice a day. He didn't put that in his book. I'm like, Eric, why didn't you put that in a book? Now, unless I missed it.
Okay,
But
so there, when I went into the
years and years, like I think the whole time, he always did enemas twice a day. And so,
but a lot of doctors do yell at you. I just want everybody to be prepared that even functional medicine. So only Dr. A, Sherry Rogers, and Nick Gonzalez knew that I did enemas. I didn't tell anybody else because I was just really sick of hearing it. And I just kept gaining weight and getting better. So how did it take from me? I had the adaptogens, right? I was taking. I was so bad at I was so bad at one time. I was on low dose hydrocortisol, according to Jeffries. I read the book, then I went to my doctor, and I lent the book out. It's like, I don't know, it's like $1,000 now, and I can't find it. I'm not selling it anymore. But low dose cortisol, it's not high dose. You could go off it. Got my adrenals, so everything set up and everything, and I just was never blown out. I just never got blown out, because I was doing the right things.
Yeah, that's another thing we're going to talk about in the modules is adrenals.
Yeah.
So it is 1:25, so I'd like to close the questions. If anyone has more questions for Dr. Ferraro, then let's address it in the breakout rooms. So I'm going to actually open up the breakout rooms now. Scott, if you could start your goodbyes.
As I say my goodbyes, you can go ahead and go into the breakout rooms. To go into your breakout rooms, you can click on the More section in the bottom right section of your screen. You click on the breakout rooms and you can join by clicking the blue join button that's going to be on the right side. Okay, and you can go into Pals and Cows, more detoxification questions with Dr. Rita, or you can talk about the 47 steps, which is this course where we're trying to cover all the bases during this course of what others have done to stop the progression of this disease. I do want to thank Glenn for just helping us out with the moderation. Thank you, Dr. Cowden, for choosing in. A wonderful thanks to Dr. Rita, and so much detailed information. I don't know where else I can get this much detail on enemas anywhere. I don't know, but that was good detailed information, Dr. Rita. Fantastic. Thank you so much, James, for taking notes. I'm going to go ahead and start my goodbyes. As I'm saying my goodbyes, you can go right into your breakout rooms. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Jonathan and Tondalea. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Sandra. Are you up in the Dutch area, the Netherlands, or the Dutch area, or are you up there pretty far, probably near Denmark, huh, or Finland? But thank you for being here. Thank you, Clayton Sneed. Thank you, Karen Tilmany. Thank you for being here. Nice to see you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Teresa in Maryland. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Silverman family, and Larry and Mike, the Bergman family. Thank you so much. Jalal Burton, thank you for being here. Thank you very much, Sharon. Nice to see you, Sharon there. Thank you for being here. Don, thank you so much work that you're doing. Thank you for your input on there, on the questions, Don. Very important information. Fantastic. Thank you, Betsy, for being here. Thank you, Marion. Thank you, Garrett, Raj, Carvel. Thanks so much for being here. Bye-bye. It's Steve, Losick family. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Kathy and Aisha and Santosh. Thanks for being here. Jose, and thank you, the Dominguez family. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Joyce, for being here. Thank you, Aria. Thank you, Colleen, for being here. We had a good time with you out there, Colleen. Thank you. That was just outside of in Colorado area. Fantastic, beautiful area. Thank you, Trish, for being here. Suzanne, thank you, Darcy, for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you, Nora. Bye. Bye, everybody.